Okay, folks, I wanted to give you a rough explanation here on grass-fed beef and paddock setup and intensive grazing, rotational grazing, that sort of thing. Basically, you take a full pasture, you break it down into small sections. The size of the sections depends on the size of the herd, how big the cattle are in the herd, the time of the year. All these factors play into this. But as you can see here, we use a poly wire, which is like a polyethylene string, and it's wrapped up in there as a strand of stainless steel wire, and that's how it's able to be electrified, that single strand of stainless steel wire. Now we use these fiberglass stakes, which are called poly stakes, to keep it up off the ground and to keep it from touching anything it shouldn't be. So if you look down through here, there's a row of them that goes all the way across to the fence on the other side. Now if we look over here, you can see that there's another one. So I've kind of made a pathway down through here, and this is where the cattle were yesterday. Now in the last 5 minutes, I moved them over on the same side as my ATV, and I've put another one. You can kind of see the trail there at the top of the hill that goes across, and that's from where my poly wire runs across up there. So you can kind of see the section that they're in. Well, seeing what they did yesterday, this is all done in 24 hours. What they did not eat, they stomped on, pooped on, and chewed on. Anything that was not of interest is still standing, and some of it got trampled, which will set it back, and hopefully it won't go to seed. A lot of what you're seeing is called ironweed. Purple top, what some people refer to it as, but it's called ironweed. The cattle do not like it. But you can see everything else in this paddocks all the way down to the other end is eaten up. Here behind me, this is where the shade is, so this is where they spent the hotter part of the day. So tomorrow at this time, tomorrow evening, 24 hours from now, I'll come back up here and I'll take all of this poly wire on this side and all these poly stakes, and I'll pull it all out. And then I'll go on the far side of them, so far up the hill and back and forth with the ATV to knock down the weeds. Because if you don't knock down the weeds, they're going to hit on the fence and they're going to short it out. So you've got to push down the weeds before you can set one of these paddocks up. Now real quick here, I'll walk up here and show you what a freshly knocked down strip of grass looks like with the ATV. I make 4 trips across it. And then on the 5th trip, I go back and put in the stakes. The 6th trip, I go back and hook up the wire. So you can see it goes all the way across. I've actually taken the time to get it down to a science to where if I maintain a slow speed, a certain speed that I've got in my head, I don't know what it is. It's in first gear on the ATV, so I'm just going fairly slow. And I'll do a 10 count. When I get to 10, I stop and put in the next stake. Well, that kind of helps keep them all about the same distance apart, which is roughly 30 feet. So this helps me give an idea, by counting the poly stakes, roughly how long the paddocks is. Now this doesn't always work, because sometimes you'll have hills like we've got here in front of us. And when you've got hills and valleys, sometimes they require a couple extra stakes to keep the cattle from having a big hole underneath of it where they can go under it. So this is just kind of a rough go over, and you can see they're all well spread out there. It's amazing to think that tomorrow at this time, this will be beat down just as much as that is over there. And we'll just continue our way on up to the top of the hill, and then we'll move into another pasture. But this is a smaller version of mob grazing. I've got just shy of 40 head, and I am constantly moving them. Now, along with moving them every day, cattle require minerals. They need their minerals. So I've got their mineral feeder that I'll go back and move every day. And I've just made it real simple. I tied a rope on the end. Made a little loop in the end of the rope. I hook that onto the ball on the back of my four-wheeler, and I drag it. And it's the same for the water. I'll disconnect the hose and I'll drag it. So I hope you kind of enjoyed this brief rundown on intensive grazing and grass-fed beef. And if you like this video, don't forget to give me a thumbs up. I really appreciate it. Thanks for watching JC's Organic Farming.